Yeah, I think can get started, right?
Yeah, I think I can start again.
Okay, hi everyone. So thank you so much for coming 1 week before school starts. And yeah, I'm Sakti and we have Yongler here. We are going to do a small presentation on natural language processing in fintech space, and hopefully it's an interesting sharing for you guys as well. So let's get started. So today we will cover these things in this order. Like we'll go from intro to NLP, then we'll show you guys what is possible at NLP. And then we'll do a small crash course on how NLP works. And lastly, we'll show a code demo on application in a fintech space using sentiment analysis and etc. Okay, so intro to NLP. NLP as for beginners is a branch of artificial intelligence that deals with analyzing, understanding, and generating languages that humans use. And it is supposed to interface with computers' logic as well, both in written and spoken contexts. So using natural languages instead of a computer language, like say a code, or like maybe as many of the computing students, you guys know like maybe 4 or 5 different coding languages. But with NLP, this is supposed to be a game changer in how we interact with our computers and do different tasks. So yeah, this is a history snapshot. In 50s and 60s, they used to have like a punch hole cards to do the computational logic. And subsequently they went to code. And then now what we're expecting is to do something like just to have a conversation with the machine, and the machine should be understanding you based on that. So the applications of NLP are like in many different areas, like conversational agents like Google Assistant, Siri, or even like information extraction, question answering, machine translations like Google Translate, opinion and sentiment analysis, where many finance and fintech firms are trying to like scan social media sites to get the sentiment of popular assets or any type of discussions, which is what shot up the GME, AMC saga. These kind of things they are trying to break it down to numbers, and for that, machine learning NLP really helps them. As social media analysis, visual understanding, essay writing, and mining legal, medical, and scholarly literature. So this is a case of a computer can do things much faster, and if it can do much better than us, why would we want to spend our productive time doing it on our own when we can get a computer to do it for us? So simplistically, that is the these are some of the directions in which NLP is really accelerating at a great speed. So we have a short video demonstration for you guys.
The progress with the assistant.
Duplex, which came out like a few years ago.
The progress with the assistant. As I said earlier, our vision for our assistant is to help you get things done. It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule, maybe call a plumber in the middle of the week, or even schedule a haircut appointment. You know, we are working hard to help users through those moments. We want to connect users to businesses in a good way. Businesses actually rely a lot on this, but even in the US, 60% of small businesses don't have an online booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
See how may I hear you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people when?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we leave here for like after like 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Yep. Bye bye.
Again, that was a real call. We have many of these examples where the calls quite don't go as expected, but the assistant understands the context, the nuance. It knew to ask for wait times in this case and handle the interaction gracefully. Look, we
Yeah. So
the progress with the assistant.
That video. So one thing that was amusing to me is that when I first saw it, there's like a pause that it did, like an intentional pause where it was like, which is something that it didn't need to do, like on a computer logic kind of thinking. You don't need to do that, but it learned that this is part of human conversation where people use ers and ums in between their statements, and it mimicked that from us. So that is something that Google is doing, and I don't think it has been launched on a massive scale yet, but yeah, that is something that we can look forward to in the future from Google, and many other companies are also working on it, like Amazon, and many other platforms are trying to have a seamless experience for their customers using NLP. So what can you exactly do with NLP is these things. The key feature applications would be machine translation, like for languages, information retrieval, question answering, dialogue systems, information extraction, summarization, and sentiment analysis. These things are the key feature applications, and how we use it for our businesses or any other aspects of our life is up to us. And the core technologies involved in this is language modeling, part of speech tagging, syntactic parsing, name entity recognition, word sense disambiguation, and semantic role labeling. We will cover the core technologies a little bit today. And NLP basically lies at the intersection of computational linguistics and machine learning. So how does NLP work? This is where we will do a short crash course on NLP's fundamentals. So languages, as we know, is complex, and a huge part of languages are actually a set of rules. If you break it down, there are high-level rules, which is a bit harder to understand, like the sarcastic comment or some some inside joke. These kind of things are a bit harder to understand for someone who's just using a rule-based decision system. But some low-level rules like adding a S to the end of sentences makes them a plural. These things, you can code them out a bit. It's a bit easier to code these rules out. So like cat is singular, cats is plural. So from that, we can understand there's more than one cat or not. So yeah, in order to perform or learn more about NLP, you need these three things: knowledge about the world and knowledge about the language, and a way to combine them. So if you're planning to embark on like performing NLP on a language that you're unfamiliar with, it would not be easy, and it would be really, really hard for you to understand the nuances that the language has. So yeah, it's a mix of all these three things. So like an interesting case study that we found when we were like researching a bit more about this is in 1950s there was a translation experiment where they translated the Bible verse from English to Russian and then back to English. So yeah, the phrase "the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak" becomes "the vodka is good and the meat is rotten." So yeah, and this is when it's not really a computer doing it, it's just a humans trying to do this thing. So yeah, we have to find a way to do this better and reliably using a computer. So there are a few levels of linguistics that we need to understand when we are doing natural language processing. So we broke it down into these few levels. So phonology is how we interpret speech sounds. So like we don't always need the phonology aspect where we need to know how the words sound, because sometimes it might just be a text data that we're looking at. And the others are morphology, which is interpreting the componential nature of the words, which is within a word, can you break it down further? Like for example, unfriend. Friend means it's a positive thing. Unfriend means it's a negative thing. So the un and friend would be two aspects. Semantics is the meaning of the sentence based on the word level meaning, based on the words inside the sentence. And syntax is how you arrange the sentence that could change the meaning of the whole thing. And discourse is about making the connections between the sentences, like something that has been said makes reference to something previously. And pragmatics is the purposeful use of language in situations. So some words can mean completely different things in different situations. We will look at more examples later, but just maybe if you want to take a screenshot or something, yeah, you can just take a screenshot of this. But the idea that we're trying to say is it goes in, it gets harder and harder as you go lower down the level of linguistics. So yeah, some challenges of words. So as said just now, this comment, it's hard to say like whether they are whether they're actually proud of Justin Bieber or if it's like they're making fun of him. Yeah, and there's also like segmentation issues. Like over here in this example, they are talking about the railroad that is in New Haven, which is part of New York. But by simplistic rules, like wherever we put a hyphen, we associate that to be like a singular word. We might wrongly assign it to be like something that is like York New, some fictional place called York New, which is not right. So yeah. And there's also idioms which would confuse logic-based, rule-based system, like a dark horse or I get cold feet. They might take it literally, or it might mean something completely different based on the context that we give it. And yeah, other things like retweet, unfriend. Yeah, a whole range of things that come with words. And this is just for English, and we haven't even touched like other languages in this topic. So to break it down, we use two main techniques. One is syntactic analysis, which is like the grammar and structure of the sentence. And next is semantic analysis, which focuses on the words being used. And yeah. So for syntactic analysis, we have these few techniques. And it's to see how the natural language aligns with the grammatical rules that we assign it. So under stemming and lemmatization, it's to find the base format of the word. So for instance, information is stemming from the word inform, and like we are trying to break it down into the base format of the word that we're seeing. This is to reduce the iterations of words that we can have. So yeah, stemming involves cutting the inflected word to the root form, and lemmatization reduces the various inflected forms to a single form for easy analysis. So feet becomes foot, computers become computer or compute respectively. So yeah. And morphological segmentation, as said just now, the different segments in the word could change the meaning completely, and we are trying to identify these segments. So balance versus imbalance, it's just a difference between the IM in front. So based on this, we try to break it down further and further. And all of this is possible using a, it's made possible using probabilistic language models, probabilistic models built on language database. So someone has to like come up with different items that we want to focus on before we even start to work on these projects. But the good thing is these things have been done by someone else already, like the community of AI and computer science engineers, they have worked this through. So we just need to find the right package and right tool to bring it to use. And the next thing is part of speech tagging, which is a really, really useful way to break down a sentence. Like, how do I know the actual meaning of it can be understood from the way that it's being used. So sometimes the same word might be used as a verb, and the same word might be used as a noun. And an example of, so the table that I've shown over here is the standardized naming nomenclature for how to tag your sentences and words. So next I have an example about this, which is parsing. As you're passing through, you will try to find the structure that the sentence has. And yeah, over here you can see that Tom is a proper noun and it becomes a noun phrase. 8 is a verb, and these two, we associate them as a noun phrase. A verb and a noun becomes a verb phrase, and combining all of this becomes a sentence. So I will show an example of how it might go wrong. So in this example where Fed raises interest rate, in this case, the intended meaning is to keep raises as the verb, but for something more simple, for something more naive that's reading this, might take interest to be the verb, might take that to be the verb and misunderstand the statement's meaning. So these are the things that parsing is not perfect yet, and things are still being under, like, they're still trying to work this through. But the idea is by finding out what exactly is the type of word that we're using this part of speech tagging and parsing, we can get the meaning behind the sentence much more clearly. So yeah, and the next part of syntactic analysis is sentence segmentation. We can't just do a simple, like, whenever we see a full stop, we take that as the end of a sentence. So this is an example of that, whereby, yeah, like, yeah, they put a full stop to show an example. So we cannot just break this and say this is a sentence and this is another sentence. So yeah, there's a lot more depth to these things than I covered, but the idea is that for syntactic analysis, we want to break down a sentence into its constituent, like what are the types of items inside, and from there we can decipher the meaning better. So the next part of this is semantic analysis, which understands the meaning and interpretation of the words and how the sentence is structured. So the two main techniques that we look at is name entity recognition and word sense disambiguation. So name entity recognition is, like, for in this example over here, apple does not mean a fruit but a company, and Tim Cook doesn't mean Tim is cooking something, but it's a person. Yeah. So these kind of name entity recognitions has to be already taught to the machine learning system so that it can understand and know what to look out for the next time it's seeing something. For all intentions and purposes, Tim Cook could be like Tim is cooking something. So we need to know that, we only know that based on what is around that word. So like when Apple CEO is in front, Tim Cook would probably mean the CEO Tim Cook. Something like that, yeah. So yeah, it has right now name entity recognition is something that is done pretty well because we have existing repositories that have collected a lot of data on this field, and hence this is something that we are able to do so with a much higher accuracy and precision. But the next item, which is word sense disambiguation, this is slightly harder because the possibilities are like it is just a bit, it's a lot, so it's hard to figure it out perfectly. So the example over here is that cinnamon comes from the bark of cinnamon trees. The dog barked at the stranger. Both barks are the same. One is a verb, one is a noun, but the fundamental word is still the same, bark. So when it comes to a sentence that combines both of them, a machine learning system might get confused. But thankfully, we have kind of managed to figure things out in a mathematical way. So the main way that NLP works is by running probabilistic models built from language data. While it's hard, a rough text feature can do like most of the job or half the job already. So a popular algorithm that was used as a case study is the LESC algorithm, which is used for the word sense disambiguation. So what it does is it doesn't just look at the word, but it looks at the words around it to form to develop the context, and so that it can figure out how the word will be used in future contexts as well. And for those who are trying to use NLP for your hackathons, or even for the FinTech Month hackathon that we are conducting, you guys can take a look at some of the algorithms that are listed over here, like whether it be naive Bayes, anagrams, language modeling, statistical parsing, TF-IDF, and yeah, these are other techniques that are popular in NLP to produce accurate understanding of what the sentence is saying. So now I'll pass my time over to Yongler, my co-director, who will share more about this applications in FinTech space.
Thanks, Sakti. So yeah, so next I'm going to be sharing a very short demo on how we can use sentiment analysis in the FinTech space. So a little bit about sentiment analysis. So it's also called opinion mining. So sentiment analysis is usually used to determine whether the text data is positive, negative, or neutral, based on what's the sentiment behind the text itself. So this is usually performed on textual data, by businesses or companies to monitor sentiments or opinions on maybe their brand perception, or even their products that they've just rolled out, and then from there understand what's the need that they have to do to maybe improve or to continue doing. So here are some of the few types of sentiment analysis that are quite common. So I think the most common one is polarity. So you measure whether it's positive, neutral, or negative. And then there's emotions as well. So machines will try and understand whether the text is angry text or happy text. And then something that's very interesting is also intention. I think this is more for businesses where maybe a customer's review or feedback to see whether they are interested or not. And there's also a aspect-based kind of sentiment analysis where sentiments are performed on specific aspect or feature of a product. So here's a very interesting quote that I found by Charlie Munger. Yeah. So a lot of people with high IQ are terrible investors because they have terrible temperament. Yeah. So this quote actually shows how sometimes people say that the stock market operates on emotions. Sometimes investors are irrational. So that's why there's this growing need and a growing adaptation in a lot of the financial institutions to use NLP and sentiment analysis in their day-to-day job and business operation as well. So with this quote in mind, why are they important? So as mentioned, sentiment analysis is a very important tool to monitor and understand the sentiments behind those thoughts and emotions. So if this financial institutions are able to get this additional information, it means that they get an edge above the other investors or other competitors in the market. So to be able to understand the sentiment behind a specific stock or specific company or a sector in real time is extremely important, and I think that's something that everyone is trying to chase after as well. And I think most important is also that NLP and sentiment analysis is still a growing field, so the potential is still limitless. So yeah, before I share the code demonstration, here are some of the things that I've used. So FinVis is something that I found online, which is a website where you get to, they have a lot of information on many different stocks, so you can view different companies and get in-depth analysis and information about them as well. And I'll be using two main Python libraries, Beautiful Soup to scrape this data, and NLTK, which is called the Natural Language Toolkit. And within NLTK, I'll be using its pre-trained model, VADA, which is called the Valence Aware Dictionary. Yeah, and let me pull up the, it's here. So this is a very, very short and simple code. So today we'll be analyzing the stock from Pfizer's company. So after importing the libraries, and then getting the URL. So this is quite easy to do. You can try it on your own as well, after inputting the stock ticker. So for Pfizer, it's PFE. And then using Beautiful Soup.
Sorry, Younglin, could you zoom in a bit? Yeah, it's a bit tiny.
Sorry. Yeah, can you see now?
Yeah, better.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so after scraping the data, it's all in HTML form. So you have to further extract them from the HTML to get the meaningful data. And this is what we have. And I stored them in the data frame as well. So these are the headlines related to Pfizer. So just to show you how it works. Yeah, so for example, this is the website. Can go to PFE. So what I'm actually doing is I'm actually scraping this part of the page, which shows all of the related news headline of related to Pfizer, and they actually have many different news sources as well. So this is quite interesting because it actually updates on its own, and it's quite easy to scrape. So what I'm doing is actually just scraping the date and the time as well as the headline. So yeah, back to this. So after scraping the headlines, I initialized the pre-trained model called VADA, which you can call Sentiment Intensity Analyzer. And then you just apply the function polarity score to each of these headline. And then what they will do is they actually generate 4 scores, which is negative, neutral, positive, and compound score. So after extracting it, I concatenate it back so that I get a full data frame with the headline and the sentiment score itself. And then what I did was to plot this graph. So what I did was to plot the compound score against time, and I overlay with the frequency of how frequent for the day, how many news headline there was related to Pfizer. Yeah, and then this is what we have. So what you see here for the blue line is the compound score. So what the compound score actually does is that it has its own formula to calculate by taking the neutral score, positive and negative score, and then calculating this compound score for that specific headline. And then the red dotted line will be the negative sentiment score for the day itself. This is the mean score that we calculated. And then the green dotted will be the positive sentiment score. So as you can see, during January, there's actually a dip for the first 2 days. But that's fine because it's more or less because there's only like 1 or 2 news headline for that day. And that's probably why it has such a sharp drop. But if you see for earlier dates around this period of time, I think there was quite a few couple of headlines related to Pfizer, especially for its efficacy against Omicron variant. So you can see, the sentiment actually starts to pick up a bit here. Yeah, so on the right is the y-axis for the line graph, and then the left axis is for the bar chart itself. Yeah, so this is just a very, very simple and short code demonstration on how, someone might use sentiment analysis in the fintech space. So for example, maybe you are an investor or you're a portfolio manager, you like to see what's the sentiment behind specific companies or specific sectors even. This is something that you can start with. I wouldn't say that this is something that is 100% great. So this is a great starting point for everyone. You can start to analyze how the sentiment is, for example, for a specific sector, and you can make maybe your investing decisions over there, or get better insights behind the industry itself. So with that, there's always limitations. So the limitation for Vader is that you need to keep in mind that it's a pre-trained model. And also Vader is best suited for social media text, which are usually short text with slangs and abbreviations, and so it might not be that accurate for structured sentences. So what I mean by that is that based on what I scraped and actually scored, here are some of the headlines that doesn't really make sense. So for example, for a negative headline like Omicron, we have yet to see the full force of this surge on health systems. This sounds like quite a negative and not a nice headline, but for Vader, they actually score it to be neutral. Because I think probably one of the main reasons is that they don't really understand the context. They don't understand what is full force of this surge. So the machine might not be able to understand what is Omicron, doesn't understand what this surge means, because surge might mean a good thing in a different context. And also, FDA allows COVID booster for young teens, but vaccine stocks crumble. Even though they said that the stock crumble, which is obviously a bad thing, they are still scored neutral. So another headline, positive headline, like FDA approved authorized boosters for young teens as Omicron spikes. They still score it as neutral. So they don't understand, they might not understand, it's a positive thing. They might not understand what is a booster, what does Omicron mean. So that's why they tend to fail in these areas. And then Pfizer BioNTech's booster shot expanded to include children. Definitely that's a good thing. Generally, it's still scored as neutral. And then there's also, headlines that doesn't sound negative, but has been given a negative score. So BioNTech jumps as FDA next potential COVID booster decision looms. It might be a good thing for some people to see that the stock price have jumped due to the decision coming up, the upcoming decision. But the Vader actually gave it somewhat a negative score and 0 to positive sentiment score. So the compound score is actually negative. And this is most probably because of the word loom, which gave it sort of like a negative connotation behind the sentence itself. So yeah, this is just a very, very short demonstration of how we can use NLP in fintech space, and a little bit about what sentiment analysis is about. So yeah, with that being said, and also we share with you guys the limitations of with this package itself. For all machine learning models, there's no one perfect model, and if any of you watch Lord of the Rings, there's no one ring to rule them all. So machine learning models always depend on specific situations and the needs of the person that's using it. So like I've mentioned just now, data is generally used for social media. So machine learning models, you must always tweak it to your own specific situation and the data set itself. Yeah. So, and it's also always a battle between accuracy and generalizability. So, being really, really accurate for this data set might mean overfitting, and that means that the model will not be able to be applied to other data sets as accurately as this data set itself. But if you push to more towards being more general kind of model, your model tend not to be so accurate for this specific data set. So you have to find a balance between these two. And specifically for NLP and sentiment analysis, I think Sakti has mentioned, language is human and is structurally complex. And right now, machines still struggle to understand the context itself. Yeah. So here's something that's very interesting. That's still ongoing. It's a very, very heavily researched topic in the field. And a lot of the financial institutions and hedge funds has been using NLP and sentiment analysis in their day-to-day business. So this hedge fund called 2 Sigma, they actually use topic modeling to model and to analyze FOMC meeting, which is the Federal Reserve's monthly meeting. So they try and model and see how much time has been devoted to talk about specific topics. And this actually vastly helped them in their business operation, because usually these federal FOMC meetings takes hours and the minutes are extremely long. So it will be very, very unproductive for them to scan through every single sentences and understand what that meeting is all about. So this is an extremely important tool for them to use. Yeah, and you can check them out. It's really interesting. They have an entire report written about this model that they've created. Yeah, and to end off today's workshop, I will share a bit about what I've read. So Kotler is this data scientist at Google. So he worked on the NLP project over there. And so what he did was that he actually used the Google's systems to create this small model to respond to short and open-ended questions. So he tested a program and asked the program, what is the purpose of life? And the program actually responded to serve the greater good. So I think that's something that's very, very interesting. And, this field is always growing. There's always breakthroughs coming up every other month. So I hope that, through this workshop, we have piqued your interest a bit, and, you can give it a go, give it a try and find out, what you can do and what you can use this tool for in your day-to-day life, or even for your hackathon as well. So yeah, with that, we have come to the end of our workshop. You can follow us on Instagram, at NUS Fintech, LinkedIn, and we have a Medium page coming up where we will be posting some of the projects that we have done over the past few months. So yeah, you guys can check us out there and see if there's any updates over there as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe we can see. We can take some questions if there are any. Yeah. So there's this question about what happens when neologisms are added to the official dictionary. Will the machine then be able to learn it better? Yes. So the official dictionary in this case would be the corpus of the package that you're loading. So that means you load it into its training site, and you can use it however you wish to use it. So it could be like you found a new verb, or you found a new you found a new thing to add to the dictionary. It will be added into the corpus, and you can use it however you like after that. Yeah. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think I think for the Python file, yeah, I'm not sure how it's gonna work, but yeah, definitely. Let me clean it up a bit, and maybe I can share it with you. Yeah. Why do we need sentiment analysis to understand? Yeah, that's a good question. You know, yeah, I mean, most effectively, and I think the best way is for us to just read the news and to interpret it. But what if, you know, you comes in, what if you have to read like thousands and thousands of news headlines or thousands of text? You know, you wouldn't want to be just sitting there reading it and just saying, oh, good, then you put it at one side, bad, then you put it on another side. So with this, you know, and also for most of the machine learning models, it's more about automating and how we can use to boost our productivity, how we can use machines to enhance our productivity and our efficiency as well. So yeah, definitely, I think something, you know, I should mention is that something that computer scientists still struggle is to code empathy into computers. I think that's something that, you know, that's a good point. You know, we still need that basic empathy in some level.
Maybe I can add on something to the sentiment analysis, which is a lot of times you need snapshot decisions to be made, and some events can have like a huge impact on the stock market, or like even in any other financial context. Some events might be more important, like an Apple event where all of a sudden the screen glitches. Like that small little lag and everything, like these things can be quantified using sentiment analysis. So it's to quantify the human emotion is where we will need the help of NLP and sentiment analysis. Yeah. So yeah.
The certificate for this workshop, I think, if I'm not wrong, they'll be sending at the end of the month, right?
Yeah, at the end of the FinTech month, they will be distributing the certs for you guys. Yeah. And I think the slides and recordings
will be shared. I think, yeah, should be shared. Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, any tips on recommendation on beginners in data science? Yeah, I think that you can check out Coursera and you know, all of those websites where they have basic courses. But if I'm not wrong, NUS actually is partnered with Coursera. So if you're an NUS student, you can I think sign up for some of the courses for free. You can try out there. If you are interested, you know, you can always, YouTube is a good starting point to see what you're interested in to start in data science. They always have small walkthroughs. You can start from there, and then if you don't have the luxury of time to go through an entire course, you can just see what kind of project you want to do, what kind of tools you need, and then from there you learn from you find what's the thing that you're lacking, and then you learn from there. I think that's something that you can do.
Yeah, I think recommendations on beginners, I would say, like, if you're looking like industry focus, I think it'd be better to find a small project that you're interested in and to just try it out, and you will learn a lot of things along the way. So yeah, I think that would be something that's how I think most people get started in data science also. Like they have some idea where they think data can be useful somewhere, and then they work on it and they find out it's a whole iceberg. Yeah. So yeah.
Any interesting projects you're working on right now? Oh, answer live. Sorry. I don't know. Sati, do you want to share? Yeah, you can start first.
Yeah. So this is a project that our department worked on for over the past sem, the last sem, and still kind of going, I guess. Yeah. Which is to scrape like Reddit and Twitter to get like a sentiment analysis, or to correlate that to like a trading signal, that there's something that could be like used as a trading signal. And I think they managed to get like quite a consistent basis of low yield trading signals. So that is something that they've been working on. Another thing is something completely different, like not NLP related at all, which is using computer vision to like detect damages in a car. Like this is because like car insurance sometimes takes it's a long-winded process, and there's a lot of bias, or like, I don't know. So to have a standardized damage assessment, they had you basically load the car accident image, and then the model will highlight where the damages are and how severe the damages are. So that is something that could be useful for expediting insurance claim processes, and which is also under the fintech branch. And yeah, you guys can think of something along these lines for your projects as well. Yeah.
I think there was another one, the speech to text. I think that's something that's very interesting as well. We have a project where they try and convert speech to text and then do NLP on it and do sentiment analysis on it. So I think the point is that you shouldn't think of this as NLP is just finding sentiment for a headline or sentiment for something. You should think of it as a tool that whatever you want to do, something that you want to make your life easier. You can try and think whether this is a good tool for you, whether it's a right tool for you to use it, and from there you find out that you can do a lot of stuff with it as well. Yeah.
So another upcoming project was the text summarization, because a lot of legal documents and things that require a lot of reading can be summarized using text summarization tools in NLP. Like you just get the gist of what it's talking about. And yeah, so that would save you like maybe a couple of hours instead of reading nonstop. So yeah, these are some potential areas that your ideas can come from. So so someone asked what other ways are NLP used. Yeah, that's one thing that I can think of. Like when there's huge reports coming out, when a lot of times companies also release really long reports, sometimes to be thorough, sometimes to wash out some minor detail somewhere. But using text summarization tools, you'll be able to do a thorough job of scanning through the entire thing and getting something out of it.
I think another way is being used in industry, I guess. I guess something that we always overlook is chatbots. I think if you see like POSB, OCBC, or local like DBS, they sometimes I think they have some chatbots for them to assist the customers. So that's something that they have been doing. And also, if I'm not wrong, for some banks they actually use NLP to automate hiring as well. So the initial screening, they use NLP. Whether it's ethical or not, it's up for discussion. Yeah.
I think we skipped some questions in the middle.
Oh yeah, sorry. Is sentiment analysis limited only to headlines, or can it be used to scrub social media comments, posts as well? Yeah, definitely. So Vader is used very commonly for social media comments, your Twitter tweets. I think that's something that it will perform a lot better with. And yeah, sentiment analysis is not really just fixed on the headline or like a certain length. You can even do sentiment analysis on an entire storybook. Yeah, whether it's useful or not is it depends. So more often than not, people tend to break down things so that you understand what's the specific sentiment for this specific sentence. And yeah, so sorry, yeah, you can use it for social media comments and posts. Can sentiment analysis be used by analyzing the tone of the speech?
Yes, yeah. So there was a project that we wanted to do last sem, which was about Zoom transcribing. Like it'll transcribe the Zoom sessions meeting. And while the initial goal of that was just to convert the sounds into text. Like, Zoom already has that feature, but the group wanted to try it out organically as well. But they found that using the sound, they were able to map out the sound waves, like how it sounds in different. So from that, they could ascertain the tone of it using like a few libraries actually called Librosa, LIBROSA, which was it's a good tool to extract the features out of sound files like .wav files. Yeah. So yeah, and that's one way to do it.
But I guess tone is something that's very, very complex and nuanced, especially for even just for English, there's different accents, and with different accents, there's the way the tone is, the way they speak, the inflection is different for different accents as well. So I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it's something that I think is still a new field that they are still trying to figure out as well. disclosure.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it. I'm familiar with NLG, but as in I know what it stands for. But
Oh, natural language generation.
yeah.
Disclosure planning. I'm not too sure about that as well.
Yeah.
Discourse planning. No, so sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Does language matter in accuracy for the analysis? Yes. For one, if you're starting to do a natural language processing in another language, we would, as in, I think best to know the language because you don't want to wrongfully classify something and like you say something wrong and it sounds like you classify that as good or something. Might be problematic. So the best thing to do is to know the language before you work on an NLP project in that language. And does language matter in accuracy? Is that the question actually?
Accuracy of analysis for language. I guess so. Yeah. Definitely your model is trained on the language itself. So they have a corpus that they train on. So the language does matter. If you're using an English corpus, model trained on English, and then you run it on like French or German, then it might be different because of I think Satya mentioned about the structure, syntax of might be different. Yeah. Career prospect in fintech industry. That I think there's quite a few based on my knowledge. I think
so in fintech, especially in Singapore, is booming. But we don't want to oversell it also. Like I think there are exciting opportunities like tech opportunities inside, and some even like with the rise of data science, there will also be many more like jobs along with data science that rise there. So yeah, it's a good field to see. It's a good mix between finance and technology coming together. And yeah, for the longest time they were quite separate, and now it's combining into something much bigger. And yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see what they come up with.
I think that would be,
that's my take on it. Yeah.
I think usually career prospect you think about like for fintech you think about like trader, quant traders, your quantitative researchers and analysts. I think nowadays there's a lot more. I think even for non-machine learning, you can also work in the fintech industry because it's about fintech, right? So as long as you're working on tech, I think especially for banks, I think maybe you're asking like what kind of prospect. I think banks are quite they are hiring more and more aggressively for tech roles to their operations to help them with some of their projects that they have. So there's one.
Even not just as an operational necessity, but more like a growth driver kind of thing.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. In sentiment analysis, wait, what's the? Oh, is sentiment analysis same as amplification analysis? Amplification.
I think I'll answer the next question.
Yeah, I think they're different. They are fundamentally different things based on my knowledge of it. Yeah. But may I know how does the present ML algorithm and data scientists handle
generalization of models?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that just now. That you need to balance. Yeah, it is by case basis. You can do what they do usually is you do the split for the data set, right? And then they try and split them by test validation and then train validation and test. So that I think that's one way that you can do it to try and, because you wouldn't want like you just chunk your entire data set into the model and then train like a 90% accuracy or 95%, and then it just fails in unseen data set. So yeah, it's still sort of like an iterative process where you need to like keep training it and then find a balance as well.
Yeah, I
And
agree
also,
that it's a case-to-case basis. Like you can think of a scenario where, like, does this model that you're trying to use to predict, does it need to be generalizable? Like, for instance, this is an example that I saw on the like healthcare side of things, which is they trained the whole model from one clinic's data set, like one clinic's X-ray images. They just used that one clinic data. And when they tried to use it on another clinic's X-ray machines, it didn't work because there were different brands. The way that the machine works is different. So if you know that you'll only be using in this clinic, you'll be happy to just use that one clinic's data set coming in. I mean, that'll be enough. But if you know that your model needs to be more generalizable and go to like places, you would need to have varied sources for training the thing.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you cannot have a model that is accurate and being able to handle. I think that's like the best lah. So I think another interesting thing that you guys can go and see is I think in Japan, some of the data scientists, they created this computer vision model to detect bread. So to detect and then categorize the bread. And then what they found out that they actually can use this model to detect cancer cells. So there is an excellent case of generalizability and maybe accuracy as well. So there's something very interesting that you guys can go and take a look. So yeah. How are computer science and data science related to each other? Similarity and differences, your opinion. You want to go first on this?
Data science is more of like getting insights and making that data useful for your business. It'd be more useful to like generate new ideas. So as a data scientist, you need to have like, I don't know, intuition, product sense. Like you need to know the business better so that you can help them in the way that they need it best. Like this is from a, like, I don't know, industry perspective, or even like the field. That's how the field works in data science. While a computer scientist, based on my interpretation, they would be able to do a lot of the things that a data scientist is expected to be as good as a programmer as a computer scientist needs to be. But the focus is fundamentally different, because a computer science person would be involved in trying to optimize processes, build things for the companies, or build things better, make it work. But in essence, both of them need math both of them need strong math fundamentals. And yeah, they just use computing languages as a tool for their operations. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think same for me. Yeah, this is just our opinion,
Yeah.
It's probably wrong. I don't know. Yeah, I guess for me, I feel that they're the same. Like what Sati mentioned, they just have different focus areas. It's not you're not saying that data scientist is better than a computer scientist, or computer scientist is better than a data scientist. So they are looking at different things in their day-to-day job. But yeah, math is something that if you want to excel in both computer science and data science, you need to be very good at. Maybe for data science, you need to be good in stats as well.
Yeah. I
think stats is something that is very important in machine learning. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. How are machine learning and NLP correlated? So NLP is a branch or area in machine learning. Yeah. And
like with the rise of machine learning, you just have faster processing powers and toolkits that you can use to do computational heavy things that would be necessary for like
And and machine learning is just a part of AI. There's other so it's like you can think about it as like different levels lah. So other areas in machine learning besides NLP, you have your supervised learning, unsupervised, and then there's reinforcement learning. So yeah, something. What are the good resources to learn more about NLP on a high level?
Take mods.
Take mods. I guess on a high level, I would assume you mean like an overview. Yeah, I think YouTube is a good way to start. You can just search NLP projects, and then probably there will be like
code tutorials.
Yeah, so you can start there. You see how they do it, and then and then if you want to dive deeper, you can see what they are doing, and then find out what kind of things you need from there. For example, maybe you're not too familiar with like Python programming, then you can go for a Python course. But if you're good in Python programming, then there's no point for you going through an entire programming course already. Then maybe you're just lacking the NLP, so you can just go for the NLP course, for example. So good resources. I don't know. For me, I always start YouTube, then Google, and then if you have time, go for courses like in Coursera. What's the other one? DataCamp is a good place. They have a lot of data science courses there also. So yeah.
But yeah, my opinion is like YouTube itself has tons of things. So
yeah, it's quite unconventional, but yeah, YouTube is a good place. You can start there. It's on a high level, definitely, and it's more digestible for you because it's a video instead of text. So
yeah, hi. We are both in year 3 business analytics computing. Nice. I think we need to wrap up already.
Yeah, I think use a different email.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Will the slides be shared and all? I think there's a plan. We are recording this meeting, so I think they will reach out to you guys somehow. Yeah. We do have our social media. You can follow us on our social media platforms, the Instagram, LinkedIn, and our Medium articles as well, which will be coming out soon. Yeah, we'll be posting our updates over there, and you can keep tabs on us.
Yeah.
What made both of you go into fintech?
Okay. Last question. I think we can.
Yeah.
I think for me it's just I think machine learning is quite interesting. Then and I guess fintech at the time was like the trend. Then I just joined to see what's there, and then yeah, it's quite interesting because every now and then you hear innovative projects, innovative ideas. It's something that I never thought about. Someone just come out with it, and that's very exciting for me, and that's why it keeps me going in fintech. And I would encourage you guys to also pursue this if you are interested, just to see what's there. And yeah, Sati, you want to say?
I was a young lad, year 1 student. I heard about them. Yeah, it seemed like to me, I was always seeing like finance and tech as separate things. Like I didn't see like how much influence tech could have in like a finance kind of field. Like in year 1, I was just like, okay, finance, these guys are just going to do stocks and stuff. Tech, they're just going to do like that. It was a very naive understanding of how the field worked. But then seeing like some startup ideas and seeing how rapidly they can impact and rise and stuff, these kind of stories that you hear, then you're like interested to see what it is about, and then see the scale that they can work at, like digital banking, digital loan financing, blockchain. These kind of things are all some things that are beyond that are bigger than just hype words that are being thrown around. And yeah, so that's what made it interesting to me.
Yeah.
I think thank you so much everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.
We had fun also preparing for this and presenting this. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of FinTech month. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's a workshop coming up tomorrow as well. By one of our members. They will be sharing their project. It's very interesting. You guys can check it out over there. Yeah, thanks guys.
They will be discussing about explainable AI, how to interpret models, results, and yeah, it should be quite interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for coming.
Yep. See you.